Hello and welcome to the Silent Evil Podcast. I'm Spencer Scott Holmes.
I am Cameron.
And we're coming at you with an alien invasion double feature of Body Harvest and Prey. And we're going to start with Body Harvest because that's how this all, initially came together. They're like, let's sit down and play Body Harvest for N64. It's kind of like Nintendo's it's sort of a Nintendo game, not 100%, but kind of.
Yeah.
But it's sort of like on the N64, that was like one of the few horror games that there was. Now, of course, you got Resident Evil 2, you got like Nightmare Creatures. There is a handful on there, but like Body Harvest kind of was that one where it's like, here's like, you wouldn't really say it's maybe necessarily survival horror per se, but it has a lot of the elements in it. It's got aliens coming down, invading, eating people, and absorbing them and whatnot. And because it's made by Rockstar North, like one of their early games, you see like all this proto Grand Theft Auto stuff in here, like way before even GTA 3 and so on. I guess GTA 1's out by this point, but it's just got a lot going for it in it.
Yeah. And yet again, like another title that you just tossed out there, you're just like, oh, this Body Harvest game, we should try this. And I'm like, never heard of it. What is this? Found it on, like happened to be pre-installed with my emulation deck and all that already. So, pretty interesting experience. Especially after you started telling me like the Rockstar North ties and whatnot to Grand Theft Auto 3. And you can 100% see a lot of, even like in like some of the character movement and whatnot, like some of the animation that they had for like the character run and whatnot. It's fucking Tommy, like it's very much like, like the original Grand Theft Auto 3 characters and all that. Super neat to see that, especially in the 64 era, pre PS2. So
yeah. Well, and the thing too is Body Harvest, when I was growing up, this game was like, I remember a humongous one. I had a handful of friends that had this game and really showed it off. I remember going to like a birthday party in maybe like 1998. And it was probably like one of the most like 90s birthdays where you're like at the pizza parlor, pizza factory, arcade, all that kind of stuff. I remember he got Body Harvest, he got Banjo Kazooie, and he got like the Smash Mouth album.
There you go. Yep.
And it was just one of those ones. So like there was this game there, and it's one I've thought about for years. I've always like, I'd like to sit down and play all the way through this. I've always started up. I played quite a bit of it back in the day. Not as much as I thought, but and it's like, it'd be cool just to sit down, play it. If you got the emulation, you can at least save anywhere you want, because this game does have save points that are way far apart from each other. Oh, and yeah. I don't even know if there was I might have an emulation error, but after a while, like the regular saves just didn't work anymore for me. Like, the lady would send down the beacon, and I was like, dude, I can't click on it anymore. What happened?
Yep.
So, and this game's one of those ones. The only downfall is like you can go a long distance and be fine. Alien comes by, just gets the best of you, dead, restart.
Yep. Yeah, it happened to me quite a few times. Like, thank God they, at least I had, save states, per the emulation. It's like playing this on original hardware, but no, like, no, thank you. But no, I mean, like, even then, like even having save states and whatnot, you are 100% right. Like those chapters, dude, are long. They are so long. In between each, like point that you could save and whatever too. It's wild. For a game of that era to be like that. And it makes me wonder, is it one of those things? Was it an anti-blockbuster mechanic? Like where they just made it like stupid hard where you just had to keep it on rent forever, Makes you wonder.
It might have been. Now, I know you can, or at least I remember on the N64, you could always run back to the save point and resave. But and for some reason, I remember it like you could save at the ship, but for some reason, I could never get the game to resave at the ship. You would just get back there and like, what's her name? Daphne or whatnot. Would just look at you like, what the hell are you doing in here? Why don't you go out there and do your job?
Right.
Just,
right.
Give you attitude for coming back.
Yeah. Well, especially for how like massive the game is, because like you make it semi far into a level or whatever, and like I got through the first act of this game, started act 2, and then pretty much dropped it after that. But like there was so many points where it's like I was so far into the level, like, or at least like first areas, that it unleashes you out into, where it was like I knew I probably could go back to my ship, but motherfucker, to go all the way back to the ship just to go save, just to turn right back around and go try to do the objective. I mean, it bare minimum, at least it is streamlined for the most part. Like its first act was pretty okay, but by the time it got to act 2, that's where like mission markers and things like that, it's where I really started to get confused about like how to navigate and whatnot. So, but
well, that was the thing about this one is, so pretty much what this game is kind of story wise is that there's these aliens that come to harvest humans, because of a comet thing or something like that. And they come like every 25 years and they've been coming throughout time. So finally in the future, I think the future as in like 2016 or something like that, you go back in time and you're going to stop these events at like certain locations across the world and whatnot.
Yep.
And it's funny, the way that your character looks is he has this orange and red suit on that I remember the first time I saw this game at my buddy Cisco's house. I literally thought, I was like, oh, this must be the Metroid game for N64. Because I just, that was the time where you just didn't know that there wasn't one there yet. It's like, it looks like Samus running around and so on. It's so hilarious. Me the first time seeing it.
Hilarious. I'm going to interject right there because my son is 7 years old and he comes in here the other day and he's played Metroid Prime 4. He has played quite a bit of that, so he knows who Samus is. And he comes in and he says the same fucking thing. He was just like, he's like, "Oh, Dad, is that Samus?" I was like, "Nope, that is not."
The same thing I said, like in 1998. Because that's what I just saw. I was like, oh, like that. So it literally looks like it. I feel like if there was a Metroid game on N64, it probably would look very similar to Body Harvest. That might have almost been the reason why Nintendo kind of like catered these guys to come on over. Is because they probably looked at it like, if anything, this will be a good test to see what Metroid will look like.
Yeah.
We'll let these guys kind of make all the fumbles and so on like that. Because strange enough, too, is Body Harvest was actually supposed to be like, it was one of the original 13 games showed off for like the Project 64 thing in like 95.
Oh, really?
So it goes to show that it's like day one, they're putting this together of like 3D era when there's only like Mario 64 and Tomb Raider and Resident Evil and stuff like that. So that's kind of a cool thing there. But what was I going with the... Oh, I was talking about were we talking about the levels before we got into like the Samus thing?
Yeah.
Oh, I guess we're talking about the story. So you're going back in time and everything like that. So the original levels, you go back in time to like 1916 and you're in like Greece, and this is like the part of the game that I remember playing a bunch back in the day, and it felt ginormous, especially at the time period, because you never saw an open world game other than closest thing was Ocarina of Time. That's like same year though. And, maybe a few PC games that kind of had a partial open worldness to them. But, so just the idea of being able to run around, you literally can shoot civilians if you want to. You're not supposed to, because then enough of them die, the aliens come and invade and get a game over. Yep. But the fact that it had that feature there, they had vehicles you could jump into and just drive around. And, you had everything from just basic, old timey cars and trucks to you get a motorcycle. And then eventually you get like, tanks and like machine gun turrets and fire trucks. And, just like Grand Theft Auto, you have like a copious amount of vehicles to choose from.
Yeah.
And I will say this game has a lot of choices for being as old as it is. Like, feels like you probably could have got by with like 6 different vehicles and people would have been like totally fine, but they put like 30 something vehicles in here, if not more. Like each world, I mean, granted, they're probably just reskinned, but yeah, there's like 15 vehicles or so like in each one, and very rarely do they ever have the same one twice because you're in different time periods.
Oh yeah. And especially like you're saying, the amount of variety that exists here, even even down to combat, because like you start off with the pistol and then you can get that, like machine gun type thing. You get upgrades for like your suit and weapons and whatever, like as you're progressing. So, and there is good enough reason to go and explore and whatnot. I found like a handful of things, and I really do like those sections where you enter into a house and it kind of goes like, isometric style, like top down looking type view. And then your character kind of moves around the room, so starts interacting with things. Like that was probably the closest tied to survival horror that like I could put to it or whatever, is like basically those sections. But I enjoyed it, like walking up to like, a barrel like full of liquid or whatever, you like reach your hand and just like get some health or get some fuel or get some whatever. I would say like I kind of wish that I would have played a bit further into it, because like I felt like the first act of that game was like stupid easy for the most part. Like most monsters died really fucking quick, even like with your starter pistol and whatever. With the exception of like the final chapter of the first act, or however we want to label those, like each individual
Mhm.
section as you go through those, force fields essentially that allow you to go to the next section. So, but yeah, it's pretty fun.
Yeah, no, and I will say, like, just going back to like walking to the houses and everything like that. I think that's where a lot of like the survival horror feelings kind of gets, because that's where you'll find like keys. You can talk to bookcases, and they'll give you little like notes and so on that kind of explain more of what's going on. You talk to people in there and so on, that might have a task for you to do, and just the different items you collect, ammunition and so on. And of course your pistol has unlimited ammunition, but machine gun, shotgun, all these other things you get kind of as time goes on, all have just like a fine amount of what you have there. And another thing too is you have the resource of fuel, which is something you almost don't see in very many games, even nowadays. It's like fuel's such a rare thing that you see where it's like, oh, your car can actually run out of fuel,
Yep.
And granted, mostly it's like, unless you're kind of dicking around too much in the car, that's the only time it's a problem, because I feel like there's a higher chance of it blowing up or you driving it off a cliff than there is of it running out of fuel.
Yep. Which God knows how many times I've driven off a cliff in this game, dude. Especially with the way that rendering works in this. And again, it's impressive how large this game actually is. But when you can only load so many chunks of data ahead of you at any given time, especially in the really fast vehicles like the motorcycle and whatnot, and it's like literally like loading as you're hitting like the next square and whatnot, and like next thing you know is like there's just like a cliff and he's just like flying off into the water, and you're like, well, that just wasted 15 minutes of time. Now I gotta go back and go redo all the things again. So
yeah, so you have that, but yeah, it's weird because the game started off and like, I was playing through the grease level and I was like, cool, finally gonna blast through this. You go through that whole stretch there, you battle the monsters and no problem. You get the cool sun shield, which is actually one of the coolest weapons I think in a video game that like. Yep. And it's weird because I think it's only in that very first level. I don't think they use it at all in the rest of the game, which is kind of a bizarre notion because it's so badass. It's like you look at the sun shield that reflects the sun and just burns the bugs as they come down, because you're about the aliens are these giant bug monsters. I guess the best way to explain it in like a more modern sense is Earth Defense Force pretty much aped this game. At the end of the day, they took that and ran with it even farther and gave it more of a Japanese vibe instead of a Scottish vibe.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I remember like texting you like midway through this like play session of me playing for the first time, and I was just like, it's EDF, dude. Like it just reminds me exactly about EDF, which is cool. So
it's like EDF, but like in a sense, this one's all more like tragic and like the human race is about to go away if you don't do something about it, and people are like being mutilated and tortured and so on, in their small like polygon versions.
Yep. God, and the amount of freaking civilian deaths. So this was another thing too. So yet again, it's an old game. Surely there's a manual to this somewhere, that you can physically open up and read through and see what all the meters mean and all the things, It took me a minute to figure out like, okay, what's my health meter? What's this? What does this mean? But there was always that picture of just like a person like at the bottom left side of the screen or whatever. And I didn't know what that meant. It's just like the meter just like was slowly filling over time. And I was like, okay. And then eventually one day it just like it popped, it just went all the way up or whatever. And then it's just like game over. Too many people died. And I was like, oh, that's the population of the fucking towns and stuff like dying to the fucking aliens. That's what that means. Okay.
But yeah, so it's like you got these things that you got to kind of keep track of and so on. But no, as you go through that grease level, as I said, we were saying it's pretty, straightforward enough, easy enough. The bugs kind of go down and so on. I almost feel like they have that level as like a warm up in a sense to like how this game goes, because this game's difficulty just stacks hardcore each following level and so on like that. So like you go through Greece and it's, you go through the vehicles and you battle the bugs and everything. And you finally get the boss at the end. You get to fly a plane to top it all off out of all the vehicles. You get a cool plane. You get to fly by there and, battle it out and so on. And then they drop you into Java, in Indonesia area. And it's like 1941. So now you're getting all these like World War II type vehicles and so on. But boy, it's like the difficulty just ramps up here. It's like, okay, you ready now? You don't have that sun shield anymore for one thing. You're back to like the pistol. Go find some stuff.
Yeah.
And you got to go through all these swampy zones and so on like that.
Yep. Yeah, that was kind of the last thing that I touched was the vehicle was like one of those fucking swamp boats, like the fan boat things or whatever, And then like that was the day that you would text me and you're just like, I think we should probably, just like move on from this because I was getting so stuck, But
Well, that's what I was thinking. I was like, I played through the whole Java area and so on like that, and it was like, boy, this is getting tough here. And all I was thinking was like, okay, now I know this is a game that I wanted to play through my whole life. I'm like, boo, poor Cameron. That was the first thing I thought. I'm like, dude, I'm like, what did I set him up for? I didn't realize this game was gonna be so tough. I was like, worst case, you could throw some codes on or something like that and go
right.
for it. Like, dude, I even learned later on, it's like you throw the codes on, that make a difference.
Yeah, exactly.
They dropped the difficulty down by like a percent.
and part of my problem too, and this is just me, this is just stupid by default. But okay, so I accidentally at some point in as playing, because I'm playing on emulation and whatnot, I accidentally turn on turbo for the A button. So I just thought that my experience, so it was, the game's tough as is. Now I've got a turbo button that's stuck to my A button, which is like your gas for your vehicle. There's so many different things that you use A for and whatnot. And the vehicles were driving me insane because like they would go, whoa, 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 because it's on turbo. And I was just like, why are these vehicles so stupid? I'm like, thinking about the era, is it like era specific? Did the programmers just not know how to do like a linear, like it's just blah, 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 blah. Same thing. And then I finally realized that when you have to get the plane, and I'm like trying to take off in the plane, and the plane just won't fucking take off the ground. And I'm just going in circles around the airfield. Like, okay, eventually I'm going to pick up enough speed to pick this bitch off the ground. Nope. And then finally it dawns on me. I look at my controller and the center button is just going flash, flash, flash every time I would touch A, and I'm like, oh, fucking turbo's on. Okay. And then I turn it all up. And again, the game's still hard as shit, but at least I can fly. I can move at regular pace, like all these things. So yet again, a limitation of my own stupidity when it comes to emulation. So.
Boy, this is the thing I always think about with turbo buttons, because turbo buttons, like, they've been on controllers for so long. And I hate to sort of say it, like, there's only one real type of game that like feels like it needs a turbo button, and that's like a shoot 'em up thing, sort of like Aerial Fighters or something like that, where like you just don't want to sit there tapping the button on the arcade cabinet, 10 billion times. Right. So instead, you just hold it down. I always kind of think it's like, why else do I need a turbo button? How many other games am I going to need one for if it's not one of those kind of vertical or horizontal shooting flying games? Right. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to. Seems weird to use it in a fighting game. Seems weird to use turbo like in any other game. Like, yeah. I never kind of understood the draw of like why the turbo button. Like, you still see it on controllers today. I mean, you don't see it on like major brands, but it's always there. It's like a major feature, like turbo. And you're like, oh, yep. Well, maybe if I bust out some Giga Wing,
I had no idea what a turbo button was until I played Metal Gear Solid, the first game, and in that scene of Ocelot going like, "Oh no, if you turn turbo on, essentially or whatever."
I will know. Which I always wondered how he will know. I never had a turbo controller for PlayStation.
Yeah, I don't know either, but I suppose it probably actually maps like how many times you can press the button, like or whatever, and it's just like this isn't human speeds, fail. But anyways, yeah, no, I've never found a use for. I probably have only ever had it like one controller in my life that actually has a turbo function, and it's probably this brand new one that I just got, So yeah, I don't know what you would ever use that for otherwise, but it screwed me in this game for sure.
So yeah, I've always thought it was like one of those ones. Like, I don't know why there's always a turbo button, and every once in a while, you'll bump it on, and it's just like, let me get that off.
Yeah.
But yeah, in your situation, you probably went for days with that bad driving.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And surprisingly, it still worked. I mean, like the fact that I was able to, so like right at the start of the game, once you kind of get through like the first like couple bits of the first island or whatever before you start making your way south or whatever, and then you make your way south, there's like this one section where it's like I forgot what you're really doing, but there's a timer that the town's on fire or whatever. Oh, so like you have this like fucking town on fire, and then you remember like all the way back through the map, you're like, oh yeah, there was some fire trucks over there, so I have to like go all the way back, go get the fire trucks, bring them back to the fire or whatever, but it gives you 3 minutes. So like I set a save state right there, and I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna drive all the way back the way that I came, but by the time I got there, I had like 20 seconds left to get the fire truck back over the town that I just came from. I'm like, that can't be right. And then I remember as I explore a little bit further, because I go back to a previous save, as I explore a little bit further, there's a dude in a building that explains like, oh, they put, like the trees on the jump essentially to stop people from jumping the canyon or whatever. And it's like, oh, a clue, and then like go back to that town and I see the ramp and I see the trees that they put in front of the ramp and there's a motorcycle right there. And it's just like, okay. But that I thought that was cool, like those types of like maneuverability puzzles and things like that. Cause there was a handful of them in the first act, the boat, where you have to take the boat like up the river and like get off in those certain sections to like pull the levers, to lower the bridges and all that, so you can keep going up the river and all that. Just stuff like that, like brought a lot of continuity to the world that I thought was really neat. And like I said, like I just wish it wasn't such a slog. Like the game just feels like it just drags ass. It just takes forever to do anything and go anywhere, and but. Anyway.
Well, I will say, I think it's Rockstar's kind of as like over ambitious a little too early on how big of a world they can make, especially for the fact that like they make 4 other worlds to go on and with this.
Yeah.
So it's like that Greece, like let alone you just playing that in itself, like those first 3 acts, that almost feels like you had like half a game right there, know? And the fact that like it does keep going, they really kind of extended it. But I felt like also by the time you're sort of done with Greece, you do get the majority of the vibes of Body Harvest actually kind of in that first world, because it felt like by Java, it just felt like I was just doing similar things, just way harder.
Yep.
And then when I got to America, it got even harder,
yep.
And from that point I was like, okay, this is where I'm like, well, maybe we should put a pin in this here. We could still totally talk about it, and go, we'll try something else. Because I was like, dude, if that's how hard Java was, and then the US was already instantaneously super hard at the beginning, I even skipped ahead. I skipped ahead to Siberia just to see what that one was like, because I was thinking like, man, maybe I will just force my way to play all the way through it. And boy, some of those levels got so hard that even like I skipped to the final level just to see what that one was like. And you're just literally in the hovercraft the whole time, and the one girl that's flying your ship, she gets captured or she crashes or something like that. And you got to go rescue her. Well, they just shoot down as many enemies as you could possibly imagine that the N64 can handle at once. And you just got to book it there. But like, you're just getting blasted the whole time. Forget about trying to stop and fight these things. You don't got enough time for that, let alone like health. It just, everything's blowing up on the ground and everything like that. It was just like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And if your ship blows up, you're instantly dead when you fall out of there, because you'll take one hit and you'll be dead.
Yep. Damn.
Because that... especially by the time Java came, there was this one enemy that would come out. There was this giant alien stomping creature that would like fly up and crash down. And it took a bunch of shots to like destroy it. But if it hit you once, it killed you instantly. So I was like, dude, there's one section I probably had to retry like 20 times to finally kill it. And what happens, it got stuck on the mountain and I was able just to sit there and shoot it. Yep. Because the thing is too, is like, for how fast some of these creatures move, like at first not a big deal, but like, you can only aim as so fast in this game and so on like that. And like these characters, when they're jumping around and flying up and down above you, can kill you in one hit and kill your tank in one hit.
I was surprised that there was even like actual like proper aiming controls in this game. Like for me, it was just like hold the right bumper essentially, and like a little reticle would come up and you could physically aim. I found so much more effectiveness of just running around, just hitting the shoot button, just kind of freely or whatever, and just pointing my character in the general direction. He seemed to have some kind of auto aim there or whatever.
Yeah.
And again, like it's funny what, because like I was following your text messages because you were ahead of me for, all of this for the most part, And I remember like following your text messages and like telling you at one point, I'm like, I feel like, even in the first act, because there's like multiple sections of the first act. And I'm like, by the time I got to around the middle of that act, I was like, I kind of feel like I've seen everything at this point. And then you really like said, even in future chapters, you're like, yeah, it's just kind of the same. They just pump the numbers up and blah, 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 like enemies have more health and they do more damage, like it's just very traditional, like difficulty raising essentially, So, but again, like for its time, super cool that it exists. I can't believe they fit that on, yet again, another one of those like marvels of like, how do you fit that on a 64 cartridge? You know, like, you know.
Well, that game's like all polygons though, so
Mhm.
like polygons fit really well on an N64 cartridge, and they don't take up as much space as say like pre-rendered stuff like Resident Evil and so on. But the fact is, yeah, that the game is like a marvel, especially for its time. I remember because I was like a GameFAQs guide I was looking at and so on. And I remember sometimes towards the end, he's like, dude, nobody knows about this game enough as they should. He's like, this game is like everybody I give it to like thinks this game's amazing. And it's like one of those ones, but it's just not that popular, And it kind of one of those ones too that I think once again, back in the day, it just stood out so huge, and just growing up as a fact, it's like, here's Body Harvest. It's cool. It's got these scary aliens that come down and whatnot. And they're like taking away people, and it's quite violent, especially for the time. It just felt like one of those really violent games.
Oh yeah.
Which ironically, it's like a teen rated game, but like when you kind of look at it, like the whole story and just like everything that's going on, it's like for the time, I feel like it's like, I'm surprised it didn't get a mature rating.
Oh yeah. Yep. No, I thought it was pretty cool. Glad we didn't have to push our way through that one all the way. Like I said, like, I mean, and I probably played like, I don't know, 3-ish hours of it, and granted, a lot of that's resets, a lot of that's, having to go back, re-explore things and whatnot. But I totally feel like I got the gist out of the game, like, and especially like you more or less stating, like, yeah, it's more or less the same stuff upcoming. It's just harder, I'm just like, cool. I feel like I can talk about that at least a little bit, to kind of give my perspective on it. But yeah, it's cool. It exists. I don't know if I'll ever go back to that again, but like it is a modern, really cool piece of history. So
yeah, no, it's one of those ones that like, well, it was way longer than I thought it was gonna be too. For some reason, I just thought like, if you have like a guide in the save states, like we'll probably be able to blast through this in like 6-7 hours or something like that. And then I was kind of reason like, oh, this is like. They put a lot more into this than I thought. Yeah, because for some reason in my mind I was thinking like, okay, like I knew that there was multiple like worlds you went to or time periods. So I was thinking each one of those was like a level. I kind of forgot this. Like, oh yeah, there's like 3 to 4 acts per each one and so on. But no, Body Harvest is one of those things that for the N64 era, it's a very, very unique game, and especially for space kind of horror. Because that's, I guess, that was like the theme I was going to go with. Was like, we'll go with like space alien abduction horror for this one here. Body Harvest is kind of one of those like proto games in that kind of section. And then if you do want to see really what like proto Grand Theft Auto 3 was, Body Harvest captures a lot of that gameplay mechanics inside there and so on. And the fact that at one point, there was almost a weird period where you never know, Nintendo could have almost just like bought this game and bought Rockstar.
Oh yeah. Yep.
When they're searching for stuff, but so what I was doing then after that is once I realized I'm like, I don't want to torture Cameron any farther than this because I know this is going to be a hard game, is what is another alien abduction game that I kind of had? And I was flipping through my library and then I saw, oh, there's Prey from 2006. I bought this like a good while ago and just like, it just looked cool, but I never played it. And I was all, that's got an alien abduction kind of theme. Like, and I started up, I was like, oh, cool. It's got like the Doom 3 engine and everything like that. And then I shot that text out to you. I'm like, hey, do you happen to have Prey? Because this might be our good replacement one. Because I was just trying to keep it in the same vibe so that we could talk about both of them. And it would make it work.
Yeah. And talk about oh my God, I am so glad you brought this up. Like, I remember seeing Prey. I remember hearing about Prey. I remember Prey being a launch title. I remember so much about Prey, but never played it. I never played it. Prey is fucking sick. This game is so good. To come off the heels of Body Harvest and like having frustrations and having, like things like that and like back to emulation and blah blah blah. To you saying like, dude, let's play a narrative driven FPS game, which is also baked off the heels of fucking Metro because we're in the middle of Metro right now too, hell yeah, Prey is sick. There's really nothing about this game that I didn't like. Just to preface this whole episode, like I love this game. It has hit some of my like. This is probably like, and this is a massive list for me, but like. Has easily slotted into my top 50 of all time. This game is fucking wonderful. It's great.
No, this game was one of those ones. It was like, as I said, it always looked cool, and I had it sitting there, and I probably bought it for all of like $5 when it was on sale at one point. And I was like, okay, I'll get one of those games. Like you'll get around to it at some point, and then I always heard good things about it and whatnot. And just going into it, well, I will say, like, this game's kind of like a launch title for 360. And I think this is where this game gets kind of lost at, because now launch title as in it came out like 5 months post 360. But that's, I always feel if you come out in those like first 6 months or so, that's pretty much a launch title. Because, especially back in the day, well, even nowadays, it's not always easy to get a system day one. So like people kind of like, struggle or trickle in as it goes on. And even like Body Harvest, it was supposed to be a launch title. It took like 2 extra years to come out, but they were working on it.
Yep.
But Prey, because it's in it, I was looking at it because I think it comes out in like the summertime of 2006, if I'm not mistaken. I think I was looking at that here a second ago. Yeah, July 2006. So that means this is when the period where Xbox 360 is the only modern console at the moment. So if everybody's waiting for PlayStation and Wii, or PS3 and Wii, there's like this limbo time period. So it's like, here's these games that like certain Xbox fans are going to have that nobody else is going to get. And I feel Prey kind of fits in this because I don't think it comes out for PS3 ever or anything like that. So it's kind of landlocked Microsoft and of course PC. So I think this game sort of gets lost in the shuffle because of that.
Yeah. And pretty depressing nowadays. I am baffled. I am really baffled that there is not even just the day one release like on Steam or even on GOG at this point. Because my experience was you basically you can play it through emulation, like the way you did it, like backwards compatibility, like on modern Xboxes, to play the 360 version. You can buy the disc, on eBay and play it that way, like on an original 360, or you have to go back through at least one of the links you sent me was an archive.org link, and like actually download the ISOs and all that. It took a little bit of finicky, like a little bit. The game wouldn't launch originally, like, so once everything was installed properly and I was running the disc through, PC emulation, the game wouldn't launch initially. But then I just like went to Reddit. I found a unofficial mod, like a patch basically that somebody, like basically went to the INI files, like modernized the game to be able to run on modern hardware and resolutions and everything. And that was it. And just like from there, just click go, turn everything to ultra and just perfect. Dude, it was a perfect experience. One hard crash. There was one hard crash that I'll talk about when we get to the particular section. But no, otherwise, like, yeah, perfect experience. And even looking at it now, and again, like, I will double down on my statement. Why does this not have an official like GOG port or something? Like, because the game doesn't need it doesn't need any kind of like texture overhauls or anything like that. Like, just having just modern technology running the tech of id Tech 4 is really a testament to what id Tech 4 is, and how well it stands up to the test of time too, even nowadays and whatnot. Wonderful experience.
Well, this is the weird thing about it is because on Xbox 360, it's not like it's one of those ones where you have to have the disc. They literally sell it on there. So that means somebody's collecting money from this game. So I always think that's kind of strange when you could buy on one place, but you can't seem to buy it on PC, even if it just was just the regular version.
So you can still buy this then.
So mine's a digital copy. It's not even like I didn't have a physical copy or anything like that. I bought it digitally on sale on Microsoft Store.
Interesting. Okay.
Which is weird because then like you can't buy Quake 4 on there, which I think is kind of a strange one. You think Quake 4 would be pretty vastly available because you can get it on GOG and Steam, but you can't get the 360. It's weird how that backwards compatibility is. It's like, Xbox has quite a good library, but then there's some games you're like, that's weird that game's not on there. And then you see other games are like, but that game's on there? Okay.
Interesting. Yeah, so
well, and then we'll say there's that 2017 Prey that kind of has sort of erased this one as well too, because that's what mostly comes up when you type Prey in, that or the Predator movie.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like there's Prey, the Bethesda one, 2017, which I've also heard good things about, but it kind of does its own thing. It's not the same continuation of this. It's not. Well, this one's like literally a 3D Realms game, so it comes from that like the late era of after like Duke Nukem and Shadow Warrior and all that kind of stuff. And the second that I saw that logo of the 3D Realms on there, like, and the whole way this game played, it was like, it's 100% feels like it's that kind of game, because
Yep.
it was giving me all those vibes of Shadow Warrior and Duke Nukem and so on like
Yep.
that. A little bit more serious than those ones, but you
Yep.
know, that was where it was at, and I love those games so much. I mean, Duke Nukem 3D might be my all-time favorite first-person shooter. When I really, if I have to really think about it, that might be the ultimate one. So I get kind of excited if I see any other kind of 3D Realms games that I haven't played.
Nice. Yeah, I didn't really like. I mean, I've played Duke Nukem, but like wouldn't say that I, like apply to that very much. Really, what did this for me was how much I love Doom 3. And just seeing the id Tech engine, especially this engine, because like I only ever remember it in Quake 4, Doom 3, and then I remember seeing previews of this, but didn't make the connections to it at the time until I started playing it. And I'm just like, holy fuck, this feels exactly like Doom 3. But what I will say is like what 3D Realms was able to do with this engine is just tenfold the detail of what Doom 3 had. I'd be really curious to go back to Quake 4 again and really see the comparison, because I'm pretty sure it was Doom 3 came out first, then Quake 4, and then this,
Yeah, because Quake 4 is a 360 game as well, too. So It's not an Xbox original. So It's about probably the same year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Actually, I think really Quake 4 might be 2007, now that I think about it.
Is it? I haven't.
I don't know.
I'll look.
Yeah. I know I do too. The weird thing too, though, is I will say is that I was looking at that id Tech 4 engine. Only like 7 or 8 games used it. It's kind of surprised that there wasn't more of them. Oh no, Quake 4. Well, Quake 4 says 2005, but maybe that was the PC one. Maybe the
October 18th.
I guess the 360 one came out well, maybe that was a launch title then. That makes probably more sense.
It could be. It totally could be. But again, dude, just the level of detail, even and again, like for direct comparison against Doom 3, the level of detail in this is like tenfold what Doom 3 was. Super impressive. And especially to like, see the art styles and whatnot, because like they do have similar aesthetics in terms of what the engine can render. The way that blood looks exactly the same in both games and whatnot. But the artistic styles of Doom hellscapes versus this, alien spaceship, like supercraft type stuff, wild, dude. Like I love it.
Well, plus the other thing that really sold me on Prey is because I just started this one up and I was like, I was just gonna play it in the background. I was just like, it was like a Sunday night, like, take a break from Body Harvest. Let's see what this one's like. I was flipping through a couple of different games, and I played just like the first like 10-20 minutes. And boy, is this game was like instantaneously is like, dude, I want to see where this goes. Because you literally start off as this dude like Tommy, who's this like Cherokee Indian guy, and you're just like hanging out like the bar, and they got like Joan Jett playing on the radio there, and your girlfriend's serving drinks, and it's really immersing you in here. And your grandfather's standing there at the corner, like judging everybody. And then of course there's 2 drunk biker guys, whatnot, who are like trying to pick up on your girlfriend. And then when she like, says no way, you get in like a fight with them and everything like that. And you just got this cool environment where you could go over. There's literally like casino machines because you're on an Indian reservation. So you can like literally go up and use them and so on like that. You can go click on things and whatnot. But then everybody just gets hardcore abducted all of a sudden. And you're just getting sucked into a spaceship and everything like that. It's just like, here we go. People are screaming and so on that. Just like I was so sold so quickly into this game that I was like, dude, this is really cool. And the fact that like your guy Tommy, he feels like he's kind of down on his luck. He was like in the military and he doesn't really want to be on the reservation and stuff, but like your girlfriend really likes being on the reservation. She's like, oh, it's great here.
Yep.
He's always like, I dreamed of something else.
Yeah. No, it's a perfect intro. It is. So another thing that this game did too, the very first thing that you see as soon as you gain control of Tommy is that you're staring into a mirror. Mirrors nowadays are fucking every game has a mirror, has reflections, has screen space or ray tracing or blah blah. Dude, the id Tech for it, like era specific, like how hyper detailed that was, like just staring at Tommy's face. Super cool, just like right off the bat. But yeah, exactly what you're saying, like the abduction scene that happens here, like after all the crap, because like it's almost 2 a.m. in a bar on a reservation, it's like how this game starts. And yeah, the abduction scene is super cool. And just like literally everything leading up until you regain control of Tommy again. It very much has that Half-Life style to it, where it puts you in Tommy's like, head essentially, and you're just constantly on the move, like throughout these, like, you get sucked up into the ship, you get captured, you get put up against these like, like doors more or less with your hands chained up, and you're just like going through these conveyor sections, and there's just bodies of people everywhere. People are screaming, hanging on and whatnot. The whole like framing of everything in this was just so good, leading up to where you actually gain control of Tommy again.
Yeah, that's definitely the thing, is that everything about that experience of just leading you into this, of being like a hardcore abduction, but like a scary abduction, not a good kind of one, where like people are screaming, you don't know what's going on, these creatures are crazy looking and so on like that, and you see your girlfriend, you see your grandfather, and you guys are all going in like separate directions. So it's like you're not even too sure where everybody's going.
Yeah. Now, this didn't not in terms of any kind of visual style or artistic style or anything like that, but just in raw tone. There was so many pieces of this game as we're exploring the ship and like going throughout the totality of the game. But initially, like you getting sucked up into the ship and you going through these conveyor systems and whatnot. And again, it's not 1-to-1, but it has the tone of. Did you ever? I'm sure you've seen the old movie Fire in the Sky.
Yeah,
that flick. The tone of this game is just like fucking to the T of what that movie is. So I really.
I'm pretty sure they took that and they're like, let's just crank this up to 11.
Yep.
And so on like that. And then like the other thing that always reminds me too is like when there's like my very first note I wrote is like, oh, it's Doom 3 meets Turok, because that has a lot of Turok vibes as well too. Yep. Not just the fact that it's like a Native American characters, which I think that's actually kind of badass, because that's something that always bothers me, is you never see enough Native American like driven storylines like that. They're like so kind of few and far between, and to see that like in a video game is like, oh, that's badass right there, and just like Turok and everything. But even just some of the gameplay just kind of reminds me almost kind of Turok-like, and even kind of like battling the mutants and monsters and everything.
Yeah, and apparently Prey was it's so funny because it is a 3D Realms game. Just like Duke Nukem Forever or whatever, took however many years
till 2011.
And this game's extremely similar, because the core concept of Prey, from what I understand, and I got this off one of those gamer documentaries on YouTube or whatever, like I'm pretty sure it like got conceptualized back in like 95, 96, somewhere around there or whatever. It was supposed to be like a 64 game, and then got pushed all the way out to this like Xbox game and whatnot. But the concept of Prey has been around for a very, very, very long time. It was also really interesting to hear how the developers like went to I don't know, like basically like the tribes of like the Indian type folk that they're portraying in this, and like got their sign off, got their permission, got their like all their stuff, and got those people involved with the game. And a lot of like the spiritual stuff that we hear about throughout this whole experience is like actually like like what they believe, and it's actually like true to life, which is really neat. Really neat.
So you get real Cherokee stuff in here, and it's they gave it their blessing and so on. And the interesting thing too is, even in that game, when you go back to it, is it was supposed to come out like that same time period, like Duke Nukem and even like Shadow Warrior and all that stuff. Right. So it felt like by the time it was supposed to come out would have been like 97 or so, like right afterwards, by the time it was all said and done. And they even had like some gameplay and stuff. I think they took to one of the trade shows in 97. So you see some clips of everything, like the early version of it. And they did have it there, but it is kind of amazing how this game fell into like super limbo for a long time. But it's actually kind of impressive that like a decade later, they were able to finally put it out, and to put out such a good game at the same time. Because a lot of times, these games kind of fall off. I mean, I like Duke Nukem Forever, but like that one, by the time it was 2011, it is kind of a little bit too late, and not nearly as dialed in as it should have been.
Right. Yeah, and core design of this game too, I would say, like just plays really, really well. But again, I played so much Doom 3 in my life that like I just fell right into this. I was explaining to you like how. And especially with mouse and keyboard, I am so curious to hear what your experience throughout all of this was on controller. Mouse and keyboard like just feels unfair in this game. Like the way that you can move, and because it comes from that era where like things have momentum. So like once you start to gain momentum, where you're moving forward and then you start to move diagonally and then like I recognize like pretty early on there's like a diagonal hop that you can do to just move quickly, and it's because your diagonal speed is ever so slightly faster than your normal forward speed, that paired with momentum and just tapping every single time, like you have the floor and you're like bounce 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 bounce, and like just tapping that rhythmically across, while being able to shoot with a mouse and just headshot. Headshots didn't really seem to matter like that much in terms of like, I don't know. It seemed like there was a hitbox for the head, but it wasn't like an instant kill like every time. It's like you would have to shoot him a few times in the head, but it was faster than shooting him in the body is what it seemed like anyway. But anyways, moving around in this game just felt supernatural, and I really enjoyed the mouse and keyboard on this, and I think that's part of the reason why I flew through the game so damn fast. It's just like because I beat this in like 3 nights.
I know you beat it like so fast. I was like, what the? I was like, well, I knew this game was not the longest one, but I didn't expect to go by that quickly.
Yeah.
No, on controller, it still played pretty darn good. It had like slightly kind of experimental, like once again, it's like that time period where people are still trying to dial in the first person controls. Nothing was off too much, just like a couple things I think it had kind of like sort of interesting places they were. It does have that weird Doom 3 thing that like it's the same thing on Doom 3 that on a controller. It's just kind of odd because it's like on a mouse you wouldn't think anything of it, but when you go up to like a screen you just click it like that.
Yeah.
But on a controller it makes you click your trigger, and you're like, well, that's always strange. But so that always takes a brief moment to get kind of used to. But because of Doom 3, I kind of knew of that. And other than that though, it's like you don't reload or anything like that. So I kept accidentally pressing X a lot of times just to try to reload, and I would end up throwing stuff. So I think I switched the controls around where my grenades was like on L1 or something, so I wouldn't keep accidentally hitting it. But there was something else I kept accidentally hitting a bunch. But for the most part, though, it's still pretty straightforward. And on a controller, you get kind of used to like if you get a headshot, cool, but like you don't expect it as often.
Oh yeah. And this is a it's a bona fide Doom style shooter. Like I mean, like the amount of weapons that are in this game too, man. You start off, so like Spence says, like when we're in the bar, like Tommy's very first weapon, and how he thought he was going to get away with this prior to the aliens coming down, and like these two guys are hitting on his girlfriend, and he pulls out a fucking wrench, dude, like a big ass wrench, and he just whap, 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 and starts smacking these fools. And it's just like, dude, you're gonna kill him. Anyways. But from that wrench onwards, man, and the amount of weapons that you get, and like the amount of like coolness to all of them, because they all are. One piece that I will say about this game is that it has a lot of Quake DNA in it too, where things are like kind of cyborg-esque, where it's like machine and organic, kind of meshed together, and what all the weapons are like this, and they're fucking cool. They're just so cool. The very first weapon that you like properly get, I'm pretty sure anyways, unless it's like a pistol or something, but the first assault rifle that you get.
Yeah, it looks like a pistol though.
Right.
I didn't really realize it was a machine gun for the longest time. I think I got like almost like halfway through that game. I was like, oh, this is the auto fire. I kept shooting it like it was the pistol.
Oh, really? Damn.
Because I literally thought it was a pistol. Just the way it looks, you're holding it like this. And then I was like, dude, all these guys I keep killing have them all, machine guns. Why the hell am I not picking up a machine gun?
Yep. And it's games like this too that makes me like, I pray to God that, like modern games eventually will bring back like the dual fire mode stuff, because it's like you can, basically like, hip fire and have like a machine gun essentially with this thing, it's like a submachine gun essentially. But if you alternate click, like your like right mouse button or whatever, then you aim down sights and it turns into a fucking sniper rifle. And like to have these like really cool combos of things like that throughout this whole game. I love the I'm pretty sure it's the dude's hand that you like rip off or whatever, and like it turns into that, like, I don't know, some kind of creature is like on top of this gun, and essentially it's like a heavy machine gun with one thing, and then your alternate fire is like the grenade launcher essentially. And like I use that so much throughout all of this.
Yeah, because you steal that from the dude's hand that you ripped off. I think
Right.
it's his gun is what it is. And
Okay,
you
yeah,
collect the hand so that you could open doors, and then
right.
you take his machine gun like that.
Yeah.
No, like there's only like maybe 7 guns in this game, and that wrench that you like pretty much never use.
Yep.
It's like it was there. It's like I never really need this because the pistol machine gun thing always like slightly charges up. You know what I mean? Like it has like just like a baseline. Like you're always gonna get that 10% there. Just got to run around. Because I remember there were sometimes some of those battles where I'd be like, okay, fire a sniper rifle round off. Okay, step back. Wait. It's charged back up again. Fire a sniper rifle round off. But
Yep.
the fact that these guns had such multi-purpose, like they all felt like they had like a use. You didn't feel like you had like some kind of crappy guns that get in the way or anything like that. Like every single one was good. Like I even liked the one that had its alternate fire was that it absorbed stuff. So you could absorb these little nodes that were on the wall. And one was like an ice one was an electricity one was like a plasma one. And so each one was like a different type of ammo. And that gun was fantastic. It never lasted that long, but you could always find those nodes.
Yep. So my son kept calling that the Kirby gun, and whatnot. And like, cause it's like literally what it is. It's like you suck up some kind of, lightning bolt or fire or whatever, and like Spence was saying, like it has all these different fire modes, but until you get towards the latter half of the game and the like super sunbeam fucking thing that thing shoots, like did you ever pick up any of those nodes?
Yep.
Holy crap. It's so much fun. And I can say like, and again,
it was like the sun shield of Body Harvest.
Exactly what it felt like. But I'd say like combat as a whole in this game, I just had fun. And I really think that's why I flew through it so quick, is like I could not put it down. That paired with the fact that I just so happened that my mom's like, oh yeah, I'm taking your kids for a couple nights this week. And I'm like, fucking badass. Means I got 2 nights I can sit there.
I gotta save my Native American girlfriend, then don't worry about me now.
So, but and then another piece I'd like to talk about real brief too about the EdTech engine is that this comes from, okay, so we're 2006 with this, so we had experienced Half-Life 2 up until this point, and Half-Life 2 is like really the first person shooter game that really brought like what I remember anyways, and physics have been around in games forever, but like Half-Life 2 was the first game where I was like, holy shit, physics, everything is based on physics in that game. This game though, even down to like puzzle design, dude, like the very first alien egg that I came across, it's just laying on the floor and there's like a locked door, and I'm like, what does that do? And I stand back a little bit and I shoot it and it explodes, and I'm like, okay, walk up, another one spawns there or whatever, and like I've like walk up to the egg and I see my feet touch it and it starts to roll, and I'm like, it's fucking Doom 3. It's Doom 3. It's the same shit as Doom 3. So you have to like roll these like eggs around or whatever, that you have to like push up against these doors that are locked, have this like membrane shit over it. Shoot the egg explodes, it burns down the the membrane on the door, and then you can go through the door. Cool, but the amount of like physics stuff that exists in this game, and pre-Portal, like for this game to do Portal before Portal did Portal, I was like, holy shit,
And apparently those Portal things, because there's like a bunch of these Portal puzzles, those are apparently in the original design of this game too. Like that was supposed to be in like the 97 version. So it goes to show that that's been there forever. But see, because I've never played Portal, I just kind of know of that game.
Oh,
Okay.
Yeah.
So like, so I guess this game I was experiencing those kind of Portal things for the first time, because you see a lot of these alien things where all of a sudden there's like a box on the ground and you're like, okay, box, and one side's open, and you're like, what the heck? And you walk through it, and then next thing you know, you're in a completely different like room and whatnot. Or there'll be certain areas where you're walking through these hallways, and then you just notice you're rotating around and you see yourself actually through like the vision of it and stuff. And sometimes you end up running around like 6 times before you realize you're like, oh, I'm just looking at myself running in circles.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what Valve's Portal is. According to that gamers video that I was watching, like this game was supposed to have an actual portal gun where you could shoot a portal on the wall, shoot a portal on the wall over there, and be able to maneuver around. Now that's what Valve did, with their version of Portal. Now this game, because of its lengthy development time, was put on time constraints by the time that I forgot the name of the studio that helped alongside 3D Realms. Was it Headhunters or something like that? I forgot.
Headhunters, I think, is literally what it was called.
Yeah. But when that development studio got involved,
You're a human head. That's what they
okay.
were.
Yeah, Human Head Studios. So I guess when they got involved and they got that back pressure to like, no, you need to pump out this game. They cut a ton of features out of this game, and that was one of them. But they maintained the puzzle element side of it, where you have pre-baked portals and whatnot, which I thought was super cool. You know, like really fucking cool to see. Let's see, I'm trying to think of like what other.
Well, I'm just gonna say this, but the fact that like even though they kind of had to like be like, okay, you gotta cut it down and just go with it. I think sometimes it almost made for kind of a slightly better experience because this game is so streamlined good and it doesn't drag one bit. Like, once again, I say like Body Harvest, just going back to that, great game, but that's a fact that like nobody's really, I mean, Nintendo's watching over you. So there's the fact that like you got to have that good quality. Because even like one of the, like there's the Scottish guys, I can't remember, one of the dudes says in that, he's like, dude, he's like, when you have Nintendo looming over you and it's like they're expecting Nintendo quality and you realize that nobody in the world can do Nintendo quality except for Nintendo. It's like, talk about like it's the worst pressure you could possibly have.
Oh yeah,
you know. But like that's the thing about that game. That game almost, I think, should have been streamed down a little bit. I know we're talking about a game that's like, you know, breaking new grounds in 3D environments and so on. But like,
tone it down,
in a sense, it's like just I picture Body Harvest. If it was just shoved into, let's just say it was just shoved into the Grease world, was all it was Grease. But you really just expanded everything you could do in there, and every building was a little bit more interactive and so on like that, and just, you know, a little bit more vehicles, and, you know, everything just took place there. Sometimes I think that kind of makes it easier than when you try to get these like great ambitious ideas, like you can drive, you know, 500 miles in this game. It's like, well, maybe I don't want to drive 500 miles.
Yep. Well, and especially in that game, because like, and again, good on the developers for the era specific thing. All that aside, there ain't a lot in that game, dude. Like there's a lot of open space just for the sake of open space. Like it's just like, oh my
God. What I mean. And then even you get to a town, and if you're lucky, there's one house you can walk into.
Right.
And then the other ones are all boarded up, and they're boarded up, but everybody's walking around outside. Yeah. Be like, you know, I didn't think this through. I put boards on the door and the window, and then I realized, wait a second, I'm on the outside.
Yep. But I did like your comment about Prey in its streamlinedness. I think it is perfectly portrayed in the amount of, like you said, there's only like 7 weapons in this game, but the amount of weapons that you get over time, and when you get them, and the set pieces surrounding them is just perfect. Every single time I started to go like, I'm starting to feel a little bored of this weapon, it's like, there's a new weapon right there, you know, like. And it was the moment that I got that acid shotgun, you know. So like there's a shotgun in this game that it traditionally acts like a shotgun. It kind of looks like a shotgun, but it has these like acid tube vial things that you got to load into it, and like you shoot and it just sprays out this like just green acid blast thing, and it's so powerful. It is so like some of the biggest monsters in this game, like late, you know, end game monsters and whatever, that like with that submachine gun thing like we were talking about, will take you a good, you know, couple clips of, you know, like things to get through. That acid shotgun's like 3 rounds, you know. It's just, you know, and like the feeling of power as you're progressing throughout the game. It reminded me, it's just like reminded me of Doom 3. It's like the very first time you pick up the super shotgun in Doom 3. It's just like, you know, or sorry, not the super, but like the shotgun from the pistol in Doom 3. It's just that power progression. By the time you get to the point in Doom 3 where you have like the rocket launcher and things like that, it's the power progression feeling. And because they held back so much of like, instead of giving us 20 weapons, they gave us 7 that all have different variant, you know, like styles to them. Again, submachine gun and sniper rifle, you know, heavy machine gun and grenade launcher, you know, like whatever the combos were just so fucking cool.
Well, because I even like how they gave you the shotgun like 3/4 into the game. Like it comes like way later, which is actually kind of unique, because a lot of times the shotgun's most of the second gun you get in a video game. So the fact that you saved it for such, I think there's only one gun after it. I almost want to say that's how far up the chain it was.
Yeah. Yep. No, it definitely was. It was definitely up there. Another really interesting mechanic. This could have been a lot if they would have proceeded on with the portal mechanics. I think that this could be a mind-melting puzzler style game at this point. But there's these things called, like, I forgot what they're even called, but it's basically those gravity paths So like there's these paths in the game that sometimes you have to like turn on a panel to turn on or whatever. And the way that they like mix puzzles with these like anti-gravity like, you know, sections or whatever are just super fucking cool. So like you can be walking straight forward. There's a path that like goes up the wall in front of you and up the ceiling and kind of loops around this other section and whatnot. And your character, like, you know, you just start walking towards it, and all of a sudden you're like, you're walking towards the wall, and then you're on the wall, and you're like walking straight up the wall, and then you're on the ceiling, and you're like walk. And what's cool about it is like the game is like throwing combat scenarios at you during some of these sections and whatnot too. If they would have paired Portal, like if you had a Portal gun, you know, to be like, and it's a shame that you've never actually properly played Valve's Portal because it has a ton of this.
The worst part too is I own it too.
Yeah.
like so many things. I have it.
Yeah.
I think it's how I got that orange box collection on that 360.
Yeah, there you go. But to have anti-gravity mixture perspective things in this game, it's like, you know, you're on the ceiling, like you're physically on the ceiling, but you're aiming up in your world to look at the floor where there's monsters standing on the floor that have regular gravity or whatever, or sometimes reverse. They're on the ceiling or whatever, and you shoot them once, you know, and like then the ragdolls kick in and they just fall out of the sky. Like there's so much cool shit in this game like that where perspective things, you know, like were really messing with me, and I genuinely enjoyed it.
Yeah, or like if you jump off of it and you spin around real quick and land on the ground. All I was thinking was like, boy, if this game was in VR, it might be a little bit too intense, because it's pretty intense just even playing it on a video game console of how much rotation and spinning you are. I'm like, there's some people out there that probably cannot handle this game, but I was like, dude, if it was in VR and you're rotating around and flipping and all this kind of stuff.
Oh god, I'd throw up 100%.
Because it's kind of like, it's like a walking roller coaster of some of this stuff, and the fact that you're jumping through these portals and so on. And then to top it off, like, you know, you got portals and all these things here. You also got your spirit form that your grandfather teaches you about when you go to the spirit realm, and he's passed away because you find your grandpa at one point. He's tied up to a machine, pretty much just like, I don't know, the aliens are just sucking stuff out of them or whatever they're doing, taking their essence, you know. And so you finally meet your grandfather in the spirit realm, and he kind of takes you through these trials. And so now I like how like the game at one point, maybe it's like the second time you go there, but he makes out like, oh, you're gonna have to go through these like 7 trials. Like you're like, oh, we're gonna go through this long training thing. And then it's almost like, no, wrap it up, son. We gotta get out of here. I was like, oh, thanks. It's like I felt like it was gonna be one of those things where it's like, okay, what we gotta do here. But you get this other ability that like pretty much you turn into this spirit form. So all of a sudden Tommy will jump back, and then he pauses in midair, and then you become the spirit person. So then you can walk around and you can walk through certain doors, and certain paths will open up that only the spirit form can do. So you can solve puzzles that way. But you also got this bow and arrow, which is what it really reminds me of Turok, is because this feels just like Turok playing it this way. You got this bow and arrow that you can also shoot things, puzzle stuff, enemies, all kinds of stuff. It takes a little bit of a spirit meter. Dude, I realized a little bit, like maybe about halfway in this game, this bow does so much damage against bosses, because there's one point where I ran out of ammo. And I just went to spirit form. And the kind of cool thing too is you get, because if they hit your regular body when you're in spirit form, you suck back in, but you can distract them with your spirit form. So all of a sudden now they're not attacking you, they're attacking your spirit one. Dude, I was just shooting the bow and arrow, and dude, it would knock down their health like so fast with that, like way faster than I was expecting. I thought that was going to be like a bonus, like it's a backup, like if that's all you have.
Oh yeah. And I wish I would have used it more, because like outside of like required sections, I really didn't. I noticed a couple times just through some, like, if I wanted to clear out a room and not go into like insane combat, because you kind of can stealth in this game when you use that, you know, like bow and arrow and whatever. I noticed the power side of it at that point. I was like, holy shit, this thing is fucking powerful, because it's like taking out the dude that would normally take me 2 shotgun rounds. You know, I'm taking out with 1 hit, you know, just like to the head with this arrow and whatnot. So it doesn't surprise me that it does well against bosses, but it never occurred to me that I should try that. So
I ended up using, I think the one where you rip the dude's hand off, like, you know, that boss, I originally was like, I was kind of around, I'm like, whatever, let's try the spirit thing, let's see what happens. And then all of a sudden I was like, dude, his health was just going down like so much faster than any of the other guns I had. I was just like, oh, so that became kind of like one of my new tactics, is I would use the spirit form a lot more often. And I kind of thought about it, I'm like, the spirit form really reminds me of like, if you're playing this game on a really hard difficulty, you would use that spirit form a lot, because like it tells you even like in the loading screens, it's like, hey, use your spirit form to go clear out an area before you go walk into it. And I could see like if you're just playing on normal, not a big deal. You know what I mean? You can mostly fight these enemies and so on like that. But on a real hard mode, it's like, oh, that's you would use that spirit form, at least be able to clear out a couple of the guys and then go in there. Or then at least you'd get a lay of the land too for what you're going to be coming up to.
Yeah. I liked the fact that you can use that, like you were just saying. There is a lot of puzzles. This is something that is a recycled thing throughout a lot of this playtime. But using your spirit form to find paths that don't exist in your normal form or whatever, there's like these like ghost walkways or whatever that you can just like walk up. And more often than not, like it would take you up and it would be like, oh, there's extra health and ammo up here, or or maybe not even health, but like there's extra ammo up here for you and whatnot, So I was finding a ton of stuff like that. There was a ton of like, there's a force field door that your physical body cannot go through. So go into spirit form, go through the door, hit the panel, unlocks the thing, go pop back into your regular body. You can proceed through the door. There was a ton of that, and whatever. But like I said, like in general, the few times that I did use it in combat, it was super cool. Really enjoyed the puzzle side of it. Like there was so much of the puzzle element of this game that like, and I think that's really why I got so excited towards the end of this. Like I was texting you like, oh my God, like I'm so glad that we chose this. Because it not only is it like a really good, simplistic, easy to remember story, but it has great puzzle elements and has fucking phenomenal combat and a soundtrack to boot. That's just like, like
what?
Perfect.
And it's a double whammy soundtrack where it's like it's got cool score going on it, but then they throw some real tunes in there too. That's kind of like, there's like some Joan Jett on like the radio when you're in like the bar at the beginning, and later on you come back to that scene, there's Judas Priest playing on there and so on like that. I'm like, this is badass, and so on like that. And the other thing that's really cool is along the way you'll find these little like because you're going through these alien sections, and they'll have these screens that'll pop up, and they'll have these Art Bell coast to coast segments that are on there. And I think at first I was wondering if they were just like, oh, they just like use like regular ones. And then I go, oh no, he like recorded stuff for this game about people that are getting abducted, and they're trying to explain this. So it's explaining some of the back lore. But the reason I thought that was so cool because I was thinking when my dad used to drive home from work back in the day, he would always come home late from like the bar working, and he would always listen to Coast to Coast. So like that was his jam, was Art Bell and like all that kind of stuff. So when I saw that in the game, I was like, oh, this is too cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. Trying to think of like there is one other mechanic, and I still to this day I don't really know what all these things really do, but there's so many times like where you just like a bird will come out of you or something, like there was like,
oh yeah,
once you get into your spirit self and whatnot from Grandpa, like these weird spirit things start happening in this game. And there's like, I would like be aiming at a monster, be firing at him and whatnot. I wouldn't hit any other button, but just like this random like red hawk would like come flying out of me and like would distract the enemy, and the enemy would like turn its attention to it and all that. Super cool. And then equally there was like these like manta rays that weren't in the death sequences, but just normal, there was like these like manta rays that occasionally would be flying around and whatnot. And I have no idea what those do like in the death sequences. So another piece for the audience, like it is near, like you have to try to die in this game. Like you really have to try to die. Yeah, I died constantly in this game, but because of this one mechanic where it just like throws you back into the spirit realm, your body is like floating way up in the sky or whatever. You're in spirit form, and there's like all these like manta ray looking things, like ghosts looking. There's a blue one and a red one that's flying around, and you just start like firing at these things with your bow. Meanwhile, your body is like slowly coming down, and eventually like you run out of time, and it throws you back into the real world anyways. But as you shoot the red spirits, you're regaining health. You're shooting the blue spirits, you're regaining your mana, essentially like your spirit. And I just never understood like what those things really were.
If you shoot yourself, your body will actually go down faster.
Okay, so that does speed it up too.
So if you already had decent enough health, and you're like, I just want to get back in the game, you can shoot yourself and you fall in. I noticed that. And then you can also forcefully, if you wanted to sit there and collect more health, you could like walk backwards and like keep yourself from falling in the hole for a bit.
Yeah. So I recognize that too. Because I thought that was the whole point, was to like shoot as many things as possible. I didn't put together like the color thing in my head till a little bit later, until I started watching my meters actually refill. but I thought it was just kill as many things as possible so you can get back into the fight. That's what I thought that mechanic was forever. And then I like started to recognize like because I kept dying over and over and going back to the spirit realm. I never saw a game over screen in this entire game. Did
No.
you ever like see a game over screen? Okay.
I never did. The only thing that happened to me once is one time I was in spirit form trying to do a puzzle and I probably overthought it. So I switched back and I ended up warping my character like into like a wall area where I couldn't get back out. And I ended up having to reload the entire level because I got kind of, it wasn't the worst thing, but it was kind of one of the longer levels because this game, most of the levels only are like 20 minutes long.
Yep.
The worst part too, I was like 2 minutes away from the end of the level.
Aww.
that was the only downfall is I did accidentally warp myself into a wall. Yep. But other than that, though, I never had a game over screen. I never had any other issues.
Yeah.
Actually, I think what I did is I warped myself into one of those cocoons that you need the little kick egg thing to blow up on. But since I was on the inside of it, I was on the wrong side.
Oh, shit. Yep.
And it's like, I don't think you can kill yourself in the game, too. No, I think I tried that. And no, I killed myself. And I ended up back in, for some reason, when I came back to life, I was still in that area. Yeah. Because I tried to kill myself with the grenade launcher.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I never got into that situation where I needed to. And I remember like, because I was texting you a whole bunch throughout those 3 days, and I was just like, dude, like it's just fucking impossible to die. Like you just cannot die. Like, but...
Well, I think this game has that design feature because I picture it even if you played on the really hard mode, is that the game never really ends. It has that like what I always called it. It's like it can be difficult, but like it's not like punishing difficult. You know, it's like that kind where it's like, well, you can keep trying, by all means, keep trying, but you know. You'll eventually get good and get past it. We're not going to make you have to restart the whole level unless you warp yourself to a wall.
Right. Yep. Yeah, I'm trying to think of the only other mechanic that I can think of anyways is the vehicles vehicle that is in this game.
The little spacecraft thing that, well, this is one thing I kind of wonder because you get these little spacecrafts, you jump in, you fly around, but like the only thing is their controls were kind of goofy. Like I couldn't fully pull up in it. I don't know if with the mouse it was any different, but like it would like lock at a certain point. So it's almost like if you're flying forward, you could only pull up so far. Like you couldn't continuously keep flying straight up in the air if you wanted to. Like for example, you couldn't fly it like a ghost or whatever, or not ghost. What are they called in Halo?
Oh, the Banshee? The
Banshee. You can't fly it like that. Like for me, there was literally a locking point. So I'd have to like rotate it and kind of forcefully get it to.
Interesting.
So that was the only thing is like, I mean, it wasn't the worst thing, but like some of those scenes where you had to fly straight up, I had to like corkscrew my way to get up.
Okay. So yes, to an extent, but it really seemed like it was based off the actual level though. Because like there was multiple points where like I would aim like straight 90 or whatever, start traveling up in the ship, exactly what you're saying, like a corkscrew type pattern would like want to auto rotate on its own. And I think what it was trying to do is just like based off the verticality of that level and how it twisted into like a 90 degree or whatever, the ship wanted you to be like its base of the ship wanted to be facing some surface constantly, and it felt like it was some kind of like almost like a scripting type thing as you were moving through, because I felt that too 100%. I don't know exactly what it is. That's just my theory about it, but yeah, it was weird. It was very weird.
Maybe it could have been like that because I noticed I would have some issues too where like I would kind of get up and I'd get like in a pipe, but then I'd be like bouncing off the ground because the thing would not pull up any farther. So like you had to sort of shuffle
like,
and
rotate out.
Yeah, like it just you just couldn't pull up like a regular like Star Wars or Star Fox or anything like that. Like it's just like, come on, get this thing to go. Felt like your plane and Body Harvest was tapping in.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, but no, it's not bad. It was still a cool mechanic, but that was about the only thing that was maybe slightly cumbersome.
Yeah, I'd say that in general, that was the only pieces that I can really remember that was weird about the ship was like just a couple, like you're going from A to B, you know, and you got this path that you have to go through, and that would like have some like weird twists and turns and whatever. But for the most part, though, like just to be able to move around in 3D space, you know, like be able to strafe and like, you know, because like spacebar, the jump button, you know, is up, you know, just straight up, you know, you got WASD to be able to do your like quadrant, like that type of movement, like strafing movements and all that. And then control is like you're down, that paired with being able to pitch and shift and things like that. Like it felt insanely natural on a mouse and keyboard to me. especially
Yeah,
during the combat sequences.
yeah, I was, you know, for the most part, the combat sequence, everything was fine. It was just if I needed to really pull up
Hmm.
more just for like certain driving, it was like I was having a hard time there.
Yeah.
That, and then I will say that this is a strange one. At the tail end of the game, you get into another vehicle that's pretty much just like a glorified gunship. All of a sudden, the controls were not inverted when that gunship came,
Really?
which is weird because this game was one of those ones that started off where the controls were naturally inverted. You had to turn them off to go regular, so it was still that kind of old school. But for some
Interesting.
reason, somebody screwed up at the end of the game. At least that part's not that difficult. You're just kind of pointing, but sometimes if I had to fly the ship and all of a sudden it was not inverted, that would be like, oh, what the hell's going on here?
Oh yeah. Yep. Yep. Yeah. Oh, health packs on the ground. That was interesting.
I missed that. I like health packs on the ground. I'm kind of one of those ones. See, it's that thing that like Halo introduced, like the pretty much like, you know, the reviving health bar thing, and it made sense in Halo. You have a shield. That's the shield recharges, not your health. That's why you pick up health packs in the original Halo. And then from that point on, like every video game had it, and there was no logical reason to why you had that system anymore, you know, past Halo. And I kind of like when you just have old fashioned health, like you just take health up, and you just got to kind of scurry for it.
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed that as well. I cannot believe that when you start this game, you get two difficulties. You basically get easy and normal, and you probably unlock a third mode, I would assume, you know, by the end of it. I never went back to check. But from default, you start your game for the first time. If you don't select easy, they just straight remove health packs off the ground. And I'm like, how? You will be in that spirit death challenge mode constant, especially at the end of this game, dude. No way. No way can you do that without health packs.
That just sounds like that'd just be so frustrating to go back there that many times. You know. Yeah. Sometimes it's already kind of, I mean, like, it's a cool feature, but sometimes you kind of, when you go back to like, oh, fuck, it just got killed one more time. Okay, shoot. Okay, come on, let's get this going.
Yep. I'm trying to think of like just like anything else. I do like the interact system. Just real brief, just because it is super unique to the Tech 4 engine and whatnot. But like you said, walking up to a panel and your actual finger comes out and like, you know, like you touch like where you want to touch and whatnot. It just feels good, you know, in a video game.
Well,
so
see,
it's very tactile.
And I'll say this, that works great in the PC. I always felt that felt a little bit clunky on the controllers.
Right.
Yeah, because that was the same thing with Doom 3. It's like it always feels like, oh yeah, let me move the joystick around to aim that finger. Yeah, I don't know how else you would have done it, but you know, so they have that. What was the other thing I was thinking? Oh, sometimes I just love just the design and all like the stuff you have as you're going through this game and the sound effects of just like there's always people just screaming in the background, being transported to God knows where. You start coming across all sorts of things of like, you know, there's like a bus and a school bus at some point where these people have been abducted and so on. And this game, you actually shoot children, which is one of the few things you don't get in a lot of video games, but there's ghost children that come out at some point that you got to battle.
No, there's some shocking things in this game for its, again, you know, like very era specific, but there's definitely a lot of things like that, especially the kids thing. The kids one took me by surprise. I was like, damn, like they're actually doing that.
Well, this is still, I always still call this is still in like peak attitude era, because like people always think 90s being attitude era, but that really extends all the way up to the end of the 2000s where like people just did some stuff and like how hard can we push the envelope, you know?
Yep. Yeah.
Because even your girlfriend, because you're on the search to find Jen this whole time, and you keep going through all these trials and tribulations, and then you think you get closer to her, and then she's farther away. You know, you meet the head like alien lady, which I want to say is the same voice as the head alien lady of Gears of War. Like I'm pretty sure that's the same lady. I could be wrong. I meant to look that up, but then her name didn't have a clicky thing on Wikipedia, so it's like whatever. But which I guess would make sense. I just play evil alien ladies in video games. That's that's who I do. But you know, you're always searching for Jen. The whole point's like I'm gonna get Jen. We're gonna get out of here. We're gonna bust out of this whole thing.
Literally the point of 80% of this game.
Yeah, this game is just you're trying to save your girlfriend and you're shooting everybody in your way. Kids doesn't matter. Like as long as you get your girlfriend back, you know, get off this reservation, you know, and get out of here. And then you know, you eventually come across Jen, and they've literally like mutated her up like they have with so many other people, and she's like this half, cyborg mutant spider thing, whatever.
Yep.
And she's
And
literally asking you to kill her.
What a cool fight, dude. Like, it's so cool because, like Spence is saying, the entire game, you're just like, gotta find Jen. They killed Grandpa. Grandpa sends you to the spirit realm. You do all these like spiritual things, you get your cool bow, and then you like proceed on. Now you're powerful enough to go find Jen. And then when you finally come across her, like Spence is saying, she's in a pod, and she's like in this like cryotube pod looking thing or whatever, and you can only see from her belly up, and a couple of her arms, like 2 of her arms or whatever. And then all of a sudden, like this chamber just opens up, and it's like the cyber dog from Doom 3, essentially. And she's like grafted to the top of it from her torso up, stuck on this thing. And she's like, I can't control it. It's like, and then you have to fight your girlfriend in this fucked up like cyborg state, And then after you kill her, then she's like, I mean, after you kill the biomutant dog looking thing or whatever, she's like still grafted to it, stuck on top, and she's just like, Tommy, just kill me, Tommy. Please, take me out of my misery. And it's just the saddest scene of Tommy just like, okay, dude.
I pulled out my grenade launcher, and I was like, let's see, what's the biggest gun I got?
Yep. Yeah, dude. Like, I mean, there's so many cool things like that. There is, it's straight up, it's the cyber demon from Doom, like, is the very first like mini boss in this game. Like, I don't know how else to describe it other than the cyber demon from Doom. Like, it just looks just like that, and he's massive. And I cheese the living fuck out of that dude. There's like a couple pillars, in the corner of the room to where you can just kind of just poke your head out, just And he's got this massive health bar. And I wish I would have known about the spirit thing at that point, because that would have made a hell of a lot more sense in that fight for me. Because like it was the type where I was using that submachine gun, and like Spence said earlier in the episode, you have this like slight refill that'll happen on it all the time. So you always have ammo, but you only have so much of it, and you gotta wait for a little while, wait for it to regen, so with that gun, it's just like I would just like pop out, take my shots and whatnot, wait for it to recharge, step back out, take my shots and whatnot. And I'm watching the South Park just chunk, just slowly dwindling away. Then finally took him out and all that. But even just the progression of just like monsters in general, like from your standard fodder at the start of the game that you can just like, the submachine gun with the sniper version, just like pull that out. It's like a one shot to them at that point, all the way up to like, like the flying guys, like at the end, that have like the rockets, like out their base and whatnot, and and they're like shooting rockets at you and shit like that. It's very classic Doom and Quake, in terms of like progression of monsters and how much bigger they get and how many different combos of things they can throw at you. And it's like, one room might throw 3 fodder and a rocket guy at you, and where another room might throw 3 rocket guys at you and like 1 fodder plus this other new thing you've never seen before. And there's just like so many cool combinations of just like individual rooms, like throughout the whole game. And again, like the best way to describe it is just very classic Doom and Quake. It's just, it is that by default. It's just a different aesthetic, and it's really cool. It's really cool.
Yeah, no, everything about this one is just like, it's just a great game. Tons of cool, like, environments and areas that you're running through, and the puzzles are just, make you real think for a second, and, really have to read the room. You get all the cool guns, and then, just the bosses are badass, and just the brutality you get the whole way through. And to the fact that, you get to the end and you finally like go to battle that lady, and she's like, you know what? We chose you as we want you to be the guy who takes over this space colony, and like, think about the power you will have, and of course Tommy turns that down, and just, decides to kill her. And there's this other lady that you find that's almost from like another planet that I felt like was supposed to be explained when there's Prey 2, like, because they kind of make this game feel like Prey will return, and sadly it never does.
Yep. Yeah, no, there's a whole other civilization that got captured, so a lot of like what we find out about midway through this game. So like after we find Jen and then Jen gets recaptured and blah blah blah, that's where we kind of run into our first like actual villain of the game. And I forgot what they're called. Are they called like the collectors or something like that? Like I forgot what their official term
I
is.
think so, because I know it's the spear, the keepers of the spear. Or no, those the
Yeah, is it the keepers? Is that
yeah.
what they are?
I think that's what it was.
So anyways, we hear about this, you know, being, whatever it may be. I'm pretty sure it is keepers. But we hear about this being they, you know, takes Jen and whatnot, and is basically just like tormenting you the whole game and whatnot. Is constantly like telepathically talking to you, you know, and just like more or less making fun of you the whole fucking game, you know, of like how weak you are and this, that, and the other, and you know, blah blah blah. And then to find there's like sections like a little earlier on, like even in the damn it, I'm trying to remember. It's when you're on the caravan thing, like right at the very start of the game. After you get captured, you're tied up, you're going through the conveyor system and all that. And there's like this dude. There's just this dude that's like standing on this platform as you're going by him, tied up and whatnot. And like you see him like grab a bomb, and he like goes over to this place and like plants a bomb and whatnot, and then starts to walk away. And then you find out like a little while later, like they want to talk to you. Their leader wants to talk to you and whatever. They're a whole other tribe that's also stuck on this ship that has broken free somehow. And the monsters haven't caught them yet. And that you got to go talk to Big Boss, you know, Elhuit or whatever her name is.
Yeah, that was what it was, I think.
And, yeah, just fucking wild stuff, you know, but all very spiritual and like, you know, just like super cool. But this is where we find out too, the keepers are essentially, and this is very classic sci-fi, but the reason why Earth exists is because they put us here to farm us.
Yeah, the harvest.
You know, it's like to harvest, essentially. And like that's what this whole game's all about, is just like, you know, them coming to Earth to like reap what they had, you know, planted hundreds of years, you know, thousands of years ago or whatever, so they can eat.
Yeah. just harvesting it up and so on. And even like when you get to the end, you blow up the whole spaceship and all the good stuff like that, and you go back and you're at the bar now, and I think there's a scene where you first go to the spirit realm and Grandpa's there and Jen's there, and they tell you like, oh no, you got to keep going on living and so on, Tommy, and so on like that. You got to go run that bar. I know you hated that thing, but somebody's got to do it.
Yep.
You know, and so you're there and you're just kind of hanging out and whatnot, and there's like a little news program going on and whatnot, kind of explaining the phenomenon that happened 6 months ago. But then it's like, I want to say it's at the very end. That's where the Elhuit lady comes down, and she's like, "Oh, we're going to need some help. You're going to have to come with us." So it leads off like, "Oh, sweet, here we go with this next game."
Yep.
You know, Tommy's going to go on to another planet and, you know, save their cause, and it sadly never comes.
Yeah. And I think that was probably like one of the first things I think I had text you, is after I saw credits, saw that scene, and then it just dumps me back into the menu. So this game, again, not being on Steam, not being on GOG or anything, I'm not getting the dopamine hits of achievement unlocked, you know, like that type of stuff and whatnot. So it's like I'm sitting there at the end of the game. I just watched the credits. It throws that cutscene at you. And I'm pretty sure it literally says at the end, "Pray will continue" or something like that. And then boom, you're back in the menu. And it's just like, and I like sat there and I thought about it. I have Prey 2017. I've played some of Prey 2017, and what Prey 2017 has zero to do with this. I legitimately got mad sitting there looking at that menu after completing the game, going, why the fuck is there not a sequel to this game?
It's just so good.
Apple. And then I searched and I was like, surely there's a spiritual successor to this to some extent. Nope. There just really isn't. What Bethesda did is that they gave it to Arcane, you know, the rights to the Prey IP and whatnot. And Arcane went, hey, let's do a spiritual successor to System Shock and use the Prey name and whatnot. I can see why people, you know, that are fans of this game are actually upset about that now, because like Prey deserves a sequel 100%. I need to know what happens to Tommy after this, you know, like there's so many cool things you can do with this series at this point too. Real brief before we kind of get into like ending or, you know, like thoughts about the game and whatnot. There is one perspective shift in this game. There's a bunch of perspective shifts in this game. They're really fucking cool. But the one that really took me by surprise has to do with the portals again. Do you remember the scene where you go through? So you're in this room, and right in the center of the room is like this little cube, and there's like a sphere on the inside of the cube or whatever. You have to go through a portal, and that portal pumps you into that little tiny little cube, you know, and you're standing on, you know, the surface of this sphere on the inside of it or whatever. And you're looking back at the room. You're tiny at this point. You're like microscopic on that cube at that point, but you're looking around the room that you were just in through that portal. And then one of the normal monsters, the fodder monsters, walks in, and he goes right up to that cube, and you're looking at it, and his face is just fucking right there, massive. That was one of the coolest scenes I think I've seen in a video game, and I can't even count how long. And it's so simple. There's nothing to it, but the perspective shift of that, you know, like to go down to that microscope and to see the level of detail on the mob that you kill 50 million times in this game because it's the fodder mob, you know. Again, just so fucking cool, man. I love this. I love this game.
Yeah, no. Like all that stuff was super neat. I really dug that. And yeah, it's that thing that like the fact that there's not the sequel or anything like that, you know, is kind of a total bummer, you know, especially for you because you know you don't get the achievements. Like that's kind of the cool thing is this game is like because I think 360, I think they came out the gates with the achievements. That was like the new feature of the time. So this game had all the, you know, you got the chapter complete, boom, get achievement. You know, you kill 100 guys, boom, get achievement. You know, so I was getting them throughout the game, you know, but. And I know because like Prey, that 2017 one, like whenever that game has always had the most mixed reviews, but I think it's one of those ones that people that play it like actually legitimately like it. So I hear really good things that way. But then if there's somebody they were expecting like something like of this nature, they're very, very disappointed. So it's like it always had that. That's why I was never too sure about that other Prey game for the longest time because I was just you'd hear back and forth. And even on this game too, if you see the reviews on this game, they're like, "This is the real Prey. Don't play that other one." You know, people get super defensive over it.
Yeah. Well, Prey 2017 is like I said, it's a spiritual successor to System Shock. It's a fucking RPG. You know, like it's a completely different game. I mean, the only thing I could say like Prey 2017 to this has in common is that Prey 2017 has like the thing mechanic. So in terms of alien, you know, like weirdness to it, where you know, your can turn into an alien, you know, because it's just chilling on your desk and you didn't, you know, like. And there's a lot of cool stuff like that. I really hope we do play Prey 2017 one day.
Yeah, it's like a cool one, and I do once again. I own that one too. I think twice over. Somehow, some way. But so that would be a neat one. And you know, I'll even say System Shock is kind of similar to this Prey 2006 one because that one is like still a horror game as well. You know, sci-fi horror. But no, it's just still like a bummer that this game kind of got lost. But this is also that period where 3D realms kind of fell off the face of the earth kind of here. It's like they finally put out like Duke Nukem, you know, Forever or whatnot. And I almost want to say that was kind of close to the very end after, you know, 20 years of making a bunch of games.
Yeah. I mean, I think I've gushed about this game for the better part of the last hour or so. It's just wonderful. I mean, like I genuinely look forward to going back and playing this again some point in the future. Like this will be on a rotation at some point, you know. It really makes me want to go back and play Doom 3 and Quake 4 though. I'll tell you that, like it really makes me want to go play those again.
Well, Doom 3 is one I always keep thinking of because, you know, that's back in the day, I used to always say it was like the two scariest games was the Resident Evil remake and Doom 3. Like those ones always felt like got me so much more than anything else. And I always think Doom 3 always stands out a lot, but this one just gave me all the excitement. Once again, I didn't know it was in the Doom engine until you kind of start up. You're like, oh, that's what this is.
It's so hard to not recognize too. Like
it's so unique. And I think, you know, I actually give them credit for not putting that like into 1,000 different games because I think it's always like my biggest problem with the Unreal Engine is that like you see it in like almost everybody's video games that makes games look kind of bland anymore. You know, and it has for like 15, 20 years by now almost. Is that, you know, when you see an Unreal Engine game, it's like they all look kind of the same. But like when you know that there's only like say like 8 different games that use the the id 4 engine or whatever, like that makes it feel unique. Like so when you do see a game, it's like, oh, that's neat. and they use it just enough. There's enough. It's not like they only used it like once or twice. It's like there's a handful of games, but that's all you get.
Yeah. I mean, and the id Tech engine is still pumping to this day. I mean, like I just, probably the most recent id Tech engine game I've played. It's probably Doom: The Dark Ages, like the new Doom game or whatever. And it's just incredible. It's the id Tech 4 engine, just heavily fucking modified. Essentially, is like what it seems like. I mean, obviously they're completely different engines at this point, but the evolution of the id Tech engine is what I'm getting at. It's like it's still the same level of quality. It's amazing.
I think the only major difference though is you don't have John Carmack putting it all together anymore. He's not the head guy putting together. Right. I think that's what put that attention to detail. Literally from Wolfenstein or Catacombs even all the way up till I think Rage was the last one that he worked on. I don't think he even worked on Rage 2. Because Rage, though, it's like I remember playing that game the first time I turned that on. I was like, "Oh, it's Doom 3, but with like a Fallout type Mad Max vibe."
Yep.
Because that one has that same feel as well. Even though it's strange enough, though, I was looking up on the engine. Rage wasn't made with that same engine, so it must have been like I don't know.
Interesting.
id Tech 5, the last one of his. But
Yep.
But no. All in all, I think Prey is one of those ones that. So worth playing, and it's like it doesn't take you that long. I don't know, maybe 6 to 8 hours, if give or take.
It's so fast. It's so fast.
It's like the perfect length where you never felt like there's nothing ever drags in it.
No,
you feel great the whole time. The chapters go by like in 20 minutes or so a piece, 30 minutes maybe max. So it's like they're perfectly balanced.
There's some good challenge towards the end too. Like there's genuinely like not only fun fights, but like challenging fights. Like holy shit, I'm fucking going back to the spirit realm a whole bunch, in this section and whatnot. From mini bosses to I loved fighting everything in this game. There wasn't a bullshit monster that was like fuck that thing. Like I don't want to fight that again. Like I can't.
There wasn't like that thing in Body Harvest that's the smashing alien that one hit kill of anything. One hit kills your tank.
Yep. Yeah, I never felt any angst at all. It was pure adrenaline, pure fun. Tommy's a great fucking character. Has a lot of really cool fucking one-liners and whatnot as he's moving through funny shit. Characters are great, models are great, engine's great, soundtrack's great. There's literally nothing wrong with this game. Like this, when we do our S to D rank tier, like this is an S rank tier, easy for me. For this type of genre, S rank, easy.
Yeah, for this genre, it's pretty darn good. I don't know. I might give it maybe an A, but I did like it a lot, though. I just think it's one of those ones, like, everything about it just hits all the right boxes. As I said, I love just the vibe because it gives me the 3D realmsness of, like, Duke Nukem and Shadowrun. Or not Shadowrun, Shadow Warrior. Just everything about it's just so cool. The interesting thing, this game actually has a multiplayer in it, and I'm very curious about how that kind of runs, because I'm surprised they even did have a multiplayer, but I guess this is still that era that you kind of have to have a multiplayer with your game.
Yep.
Even if your games, because this game just feels so heavily first person or story driven that it feels weird that like there's a multiplayer in it, but at the same time, I'm kind of curious.
Well, it's the Xbox Live era, dude. Everything at this era came out with some kind of multiplayer. Well, so
it's so early in the run, you probably could play it 4-player split screen.
Probably.
Because I'd be most split screen mostly didn't disappear until about the Xbox One. Very there's probably a couple games on like 360 that they started like slowly pulling it away, but like for the most part, everybody had split screen still. So
yeah. I have no idea. Split screen's kind of rare with PC.
Split screen's almost like it's pretty super rare on PC.
Yeah. Funny enough, I mean, we're collectively we're playing through the Halo campaign involved right now as well. And
did the most unsocial thing. Let's play this game, but not together.
Right.
I kid you not. That's that's probably like the biggest factor that I feel like is kind of missing. Though is like, you really should be playing Halo with somebody else. It's like, it's not meant to be. I mean, even though I've played it multiple times by myself, but it's like, it's not.
I'm sorry. Something just came to my head. There is one puzzle in Prey 2006 that I had the biggest smile on my face the moment that I figured out what was actually going on. It's the cube puzzle. It's where you get warped into this cube. You're on the inside of a cube, and so another mechanic that we failed to mention real quick. There's gravity puzzles in this game too, where there's like these like little platforms that you can shoot. And so if you're standing on the floor and there's a wall in front of you straight 90, and there's a little portal thing or a little like button thing on the wall that you can shoot. You shoot that button, and then the whole room rotates for that to be the floor. So wherever you shoot, that will become your base, right?
See, these are the parts that I thought about. If this game was in VR and you shot those,
oh god. So, and again, it's going to be really hard to describe verbally, but you're in the inside of a cube, and inside the cube, there's like you're looking around, and you notice that there's like gaps in the cube and whatnot, and then you notice that there's like a light, and this light is filling up one square of one of those gaps in the inside of the cube and whatnot, and there's all those little buttons and whatnot. So like I'm just shooting those buttons, and I'm like just trying to figure like what is happening. You know, the screen will rotate 90 degrees, I fall to the floor. I shoot another button, screen rotates, I fall to the floor. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? But it's those aha moments. It's that, you know, it's those like, okay, I get it. The light that is in that open square, you know, needed to be vertical, and then it falls to the floor, and then it needs to shift this way. So you shoot this button over here. The cube shifts, and then it falls to the floor, and it's a gravity puzzle based off this light having to fill in all the open void and whatnot. Meanwhile, you're shooting all the buttons trying to get the cube to turn in the right directions for it to complete the whole path, you know, on the inside of this cube. I was smiling the entire time. I was like, this is so cool. I wish there was a whole game just like that, you know, like just this. You know, like,
well, I had to do that puzzle over twice because that was the level where I got myself warped into the wall. But the second time I went to that puzzle, I was just like, it was just you shot the opposite wall one, and just that was the whole thing. Whatever side it came down on, you shot the opposite of, and it just pop. You know, but no, that was a cool puzzle. That was definitely super unique. It took me a moment the first time I got. I think that's why I was kind of bummed out the first time I had to restart that level. I was like, oh, just that long puzzle. I'm like, oh, well, it wasn't so bad the second time.
Yeah, but there's a lot of that. There's a lot of just like, I know that those developers were sitting there coding that going, people are gonna like this, you know, like I mean there's so much of that in the game. Anyways, the cube puzzle alone, gravity, again, it's the physics era of id Tech, and you know, you name the engine. Wonderful game. I really like this one a lot.
Yeah, and the thing is you can still pick this one up on Xbox. It's still on the Xbox store, and it goes on sale for like $5. So
yep.
You know, I think its normal price is like $10, maybe $15. I don't know. Like, so even at that though, it's a hell of a game.
Or you just did go the route I did with the archive.org, you know.
Well, that's mostly it. Is I feel like if there's PC games and I can't find them on something, it's just like there's always some nice person that uploads a good copy on like either archive or one of those other ones. So you know, they're keeping the old games alive. But yeah, it is a weird one that you can't pick this up. And I don't know. It's like I guess obviously does Bethesda even own this, or is this one of those weird games that's in like the loophole?
Yeah, I think it's just in legal limbo, really. I don't know who owns this at this point. But the fact that it's delisted, because it was on Steam at one point, you could buy this game on Steam, but it has since been delisted, and it doesn't have a GOG port, tells me that it's in some kind of legal limbo right now, because GOG has been like insanely successful at relaunching or revitalizing old games like that and whatnot. It really blows my mind that there's a PC port of this that it doesn't exist on GOG, you know. So
yeah, well, because that seems like that's GOG's like core mission. Like it always seems like when GOG's doing other things, like when they got brand new games on there, it seems like it seems weird to buy a brand new game on GOG. I feel like that doesn't seem like that's what that site was made for.
Yep.
Like that's my place where I go collect old PC games.
Well, exactly. Well, and to their credit, the fact that it exists on GOG DRM free forever, in 20 years from now, you're gonna be like, oh yeah, how do I get a copy of The Witcher 3? How do I get a copy of blah blah blah? You know, like shit like that. You know, so
that is true. That is true.
It exists there from the get go. So.
Yeah, you get it. And I want to say I actually have a copy of one of my Prey copies is on GOG.
Hell yeah.
Which means I might have got it for one of those free ones of Amazon because of
there you go.
But so yeah, so there is always that cool stuff. But no, this one was awesome. Yeah, as I said, makes me want to play some more Doom 3 for sure. Like, you know, you just see that. I think we need to forcefully find the way to play Doom 3 in co-op mode though, to get the full experience of Doom 3.
Yeah,
I think that would be the way to do it.
Yep.
You know. I've had my 2 Xbox and my 2 copies like just waiting for years and the link cable and everything. But
perfect. Yeah, we should do that.
But yeah, Prey, check that bad boy out. You know, check out Body Harvest if you want to see the old timey N64 open world Grand Theft Auto world with alien invasions and all kinds of stuff. It's definitely still a unique experience, and if you were there back in the day, you might remember it fondly. And if you haven't played it before, it might be just an interesting archive find. But yeah, beyond all that good stuff, check out more Silent Evil podcasts, survival horror of all kinds of genres and so on over the years on YouTube and Spotify, along with the Old Man Orange podcast. But till then, I'm Spencer Scott Holmes.
And I am Cameron.
And we'll see you some other time.